It started with a protest, one of hundreds erupting across the country, but only one of the protesters had to sprint from riot police while a masked supervillain soared overhead. His name was Peter Parker. To most Americans, the 1960s counterculture and New Left movements were born in lecture halls and on picket lines. But for millions of young people, a fictional teenager in red and blue tights was weaving some of the same questions they were asking. Who deserves power? What does responsibility look like? And what happens when authority fails the people it claims to protect? To understand the eruptions of the 1960s, we have to go back to the uneasy calm of the 1950s. Beneath the post-war boom and suburban optimism, tension simmered. Young Americans were raised to fear nuclear annihilation, drilled to hide under desks while watching their parents trust the same institutions that stockpiled the bombs. Meanwhile, racial segregation persisted, McCarthyism had strangled dissent, and the culture preached conformity as safety. By the late 1950s, students began to feel that the American dream didn't belong to them. It belonged to their parents' generation, and they were being squeezed inside it. Then came 1960. Black college students sat at segregated lunch counters in Greensboro and refused to move. Young activists formed the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and in 1962, Students for a Democratic Society published the Port Huron Statement, a manifesto calling for participatory democracy, racial justice, and an end to militarism. The statement reads, "We are people of this generation, bred in at least modest comfort, looking uncomfortably to the world we inherit." This wasn't just a protest, it was a generational revolt against apathy, bureaucracy, and blind obedience. In the middle of this ideological wildfire, Marvel introduced Spider-Man in 1962. He wasn't a patriotic icon like Captain America or a godlike symbol like Superman. He was insecure, broke, and bullied.
We tried to make our characters have feet of clay. Now, poor Spider-Man. I mean, okay, he's pretty good at catching bad guys, but he's apt to get an allergy attack while he's fighting. He worries about dandruff. He'll have an ingrown toenail, tears his costume. His Aunt May won't let him go out to save the world because he's not wearing his galoshes and it's snowing out.
And in a decade defined by questioning authority, Spider-Man didn't trust the system either. The press demonized him, the police often chased him, adults misunderstood him. For young readers, many the same age as the protesters marching from Berkeley to Chicago, Peter Parker became the first superhero who looked like them on the inside. The backlash hardened. Politicians condemned long hairs and radicals. Police crackdowns intensified. The Vietnam War draft turned college campuses into battlegrounds. The establishment wanted calm, the youth wanted change, and in the tension between the two, even fictional heroes got caught. Then came a moment that made history. In 1971, the U.S. Department of Health, Education, and Welfare approached Marvel Comics with a request: publish an anti-drug message. Stan Lee agreed. The resulting story arc, The Amazing Spider-Man issues 96 to 98, showed a friend of Peter Parker, Harry Osborn, spiraling into addiction. There were no supervillain metaphors, no sugarcoating, just a blunt depiction of a crisis sweeping through real American cities and campuses. The Comics Code Authority, created in the paranoia of the 1950s, immediately rejected it. The rule was absolute. Comics could not show drug use, even to condemn it. Marvel chose to publish anyway. For the first time since 1954, a major publisher released a mainstream comic without a code seal. And something remarkable happened. The issues sold out. Readers praised Marvel for treating them like adults. Teachers wrote in thanking the company. Even other comic publishers quietly admitted the code looked outdated. Within a year, the code changed its rules. A superhero comic had forced a conservative institution to reform. During this period, Spider-Man stories increasingly mirrored the anxieties of youth culture: distrust of the government, urban decay, rising crime, police overreach, and the sense that institutions meant to protect the vulnerable were cracking under pressure. By the mid-70s, the streets quieted. The Vietnam War had ended, some activists joined formal politics, others turned inward. The counterculture diffused into mainstream life, changing fashion, music, education, and the expectations of personal freedom. As America entered an era of reform, messy, uneven, but real, Spider-Man changed too. Today, Spider-Man remains one of the most relatable heroes, not because he leads revolutions, but because he wrestles with the pressure to make the world better, even when he feels powerless, just like the movements that shaped him. Revolution, reaction, reform, the cycle that defined the 1960s, also defined a superhero born in its shadow. With great power, whether in the streets, in institutions, or in the pages of a comic, comes great responsibility.